said if I came over, he had a few friends. He'd get them all out there. It's great to see so much enthusiasm for the cause of liberty. We certainly need it. We need it in Washington is where we really need it. But there's a lot of things going on in this country, and there's a lot of good things going on. Coming out like this, a young crowd like this, enthusiastic about an issue which is so important, which has been forgotten for many decades, that's a good reason to cheer, and I applaud you for your interest in this very important issue. I get asked a lot of times by the media exactly why are the young people interested in what I've been talking about. I said, well, there's a couple reasons. One is that they're getting a bad deal. Yeah. You're inheriting a mess. You have a big debt to deal with. You have perpetual wars that never seem to end. But for various reasons, the Federal Reserve is an issue, personal liberty is an issue, the ongoing wars, and also this deficit, and it's a lot of problems. And I think it came together about 4 or 5 years ago when it was recognized with the financial crisis how serious this was. But also, we're winning these arguments. We're winning these arguments certainly on the Federal Reserve. Just think, you know, it's been around for 100 years, and this is the first time we've had a serious debate about whether it even should exist. Last year, we actually, got a Federal Reserve audit passed in the House. We got a partial audit passed.
Yeah, thanks to you!
And this is a reflection of people like you who have gotten to your congressmen and the congresswomen and say, hey, look, why don't you support this? So the majority is switching and changing. But even on the war issue, this is one where we're winning too. It's been neglected for so long, but now 69% of the American people say enough is enough, get out of Afghanistan. Trouble paying our bills? Why are we having trouble, with taking care of people's medical problems and our educational system? In the last 10 years, we have increased our national debt by $4 trillion for fighting wars that are undeclared, make no sense. It wouldn't be too difficult to figure out the solution to this. What if we just have a daydream for a minute? What if we had only people in Washington who actually read the Constitution and would obey the Constitution? Under those circumstances, we wouldn't have had a war since World War II. We would be very wealthy nations. We'd probably have a lot more friends, too. Unfortunately, the foreign policy you're inheriting, and I hope we do see these changes, is one where our country goes and we have this belief that we have this responsibility to be the policeman of the world. And we go to the various dictators and we say, if you'll be our pet dictator, we're going to give you billions of dollars. But if you don't, we're going to give you a lot of bombs on your country and we're going to kill your people. What a choice. What about a choice of talking to people, being friends with people, and trade with people? This whole thing about it's been going on for 100 years. It actually started with Woodrow Wilson. That we had this obligation to spread our excellence around the world because we're supposed to be an exceptional nation. In many ways we are. But how do you prove that you're an exceptional nation by bombing people when they haven't even attacked us? That's not very exceptional. But our qualities that we have and that we're losing and we need to restore. I mean, if we truly protected civil liberties, if we truly had a sound monetary system, and we knew how to provide the conditions for a free market economy and sound money and a foreign policy of friendship and trade, I mean, if we'd set an example, wouldn't this be a better way to spread our message through others who would want to emulate what we're doing if we set a good standard for the rest of it? Think about what happened in the 1960s, because that was when I had finished medical school and I was drafted during the Cuban crisis, And not only was there the Cuban crisis, there was also the Vietnam War going on. Well, the French were over there for 10 years. We went there 10 years. We lost 60,000 personnel. We spent a lot of money, which ushered in a decade of the 70s of a very bad economic climate. But finally, when we leave, what happened? Was there a domino effect and the whole world became communist? No, communist was a failed system. It fell apart. Right now, you know, the Chinese have become our banker, and now the Vietnamese, we visit there, we trade there, we invest over there, and they come over here. Just think, in the time after the war was over, what was achieved in peace that was never achieved in 20 years of a war. There's no way you can expect war to solve our problems. There's another thing that you'll read about, and sometimes you're taught these things, but it's an absolute fallacy that wars end depressions. And we've been taught that, but it's wrong. Wars might employ people and lower the unemployment rate, but what a heck of an employment. You know, get involved and get shot at and go around shooting people and putting the country further in debt. So, no, wars are not good for the economy. It's always a drain. Just think of it. If you say, well, if you build bombs and weapons and missiles, that'll stimulate the economy. Yeah, but what do you produce? Bombs and missiles and helicopters that go over and get blown up. It doesn't raise the standard of living of anybody. Just think of that money, if it were spent back here, the standard of living would be raised by the American people.
Yeah.
Characteristic of a society that destroys its currency, and believe me, there's been plenty throughout the ages. When you destroy the currency by debasing the currency, printing the money, diluting the metals or whatever, or using a computer, when you debase the currency, you destroy the middle class, and the wealthy get wealthier. There's a transfer of wealth automatically from the middle class and the poor to the wealthy. That is what's happening, and that's why there's a lot of dissent right now, and a lot of people very angry and upset because the middle class is shrinking. It's poorer now than it used to be. We used to have the largest and the richest middle class in the history of the whole world. But today, the wealth that you see that still exists in the middle class is based on debt. So it's a fiction that the wealth is still there. And the middle class now is threatened because of this economic system. So whether you're wasting money overseas, or whether you're debasing the currency, or having the government spend the money instead of the people spend the money, you're going to end up with a mess like this. This is the reason I make a suggestion for my first year in office to cut spending by the government by $1 trillion. Is stop some of these construction works overseas. For instance, one good example of a real wasteful project, we're spending nearly $1 billion building the biggest embassy in the history of the world, the biggest one for us, in Baghdad. We have 17,000. They tell you the war is over in Iraq. Believe me, it isn't. They're going to have 17,000 employees in this embassy, which is going to be about the same size as the embassy in Italy. But what they're going to do is now, to maintain that embassy, they just appropriated another $5 billion. Why don't we spend this money home? Cut the taxes, let you spend it. The government, let me tell you one thing. I'm going to be serious about it. Now, I've met a couple of bureaucrats and a few politicians in the time I've been in Washington. Let me tell you, they're not smart enough to know how to spend your money. So when people are worried, he's going to cut $1 trillion out of the budget. No, we're not cutting $1 trillion out of the spending. We're just transferring the responsibility of the spending to the people rather than the government. We've embarked on these problems for 100 years. This is when we got careless, especially that Woodrow Wilson era. That was a bad era. Not only did he come up with this newfangled foreign policy about making the world safe for democracy, he's also the one that introduced this notion, or had passed this notion, of the income tax. Now, the reason the income tax is a vicious tax, it's based on the fact that you endorse the idea that government owns all your income and the government allows you to keep a certain percentage on their conditions. This is why the founders didn't give us an income tax. In a true republic, when you see the restoration of the republic, you will see the repeal of the 16th Amendment. And also, next year we ought to have a celebration.